long story short, Natalia, is I had my priorities, my balance of life so backwards, and a much higher spirit was trying to give me a wake up call, and they definitely did. And that was the first time I listened to the wake up call and realized, okay, I have to make a dramatic change, and this change I'm going to make is ultimately going to allow me to live out and get close to my higher self for the rest of my life, for my business. Because if I would have kept on that same path I was on, my business may not be here. The opportunities, the people that I want to impact and allow to have a platform to grow to their highest self probably wouldn't even exist if I hadn't gone through what I went through.
Hi, everyone. I'm Natalia Ochoa, and I was so inspired to create this podcast because I want to share a piece of wisdom that I'm integrating into my life currently. We all have the ability to create our own reality in which we can heal ourselves. Hopefully, through the conversations I'm passionately sharing, you'll discover the power of your own intuition. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am so thrilled to be speaking to today's guest. I'm just very inspired by Justin. I met him through a mutual friend, and I honestly think that he is one of the most openly loving and courageous men that I know out there. Justin Peters is a true visionary for creating innovative communities across the world with the mission to positively impact the lives of millions of people. As an entrepreneur, Peters is known for his insatiable hunger to end all suffering, his execution, motivation, and precision when it comes to building businesses. Within the past 3 years, JP has founded JZ Home Buyers, JP Acquisitions, and Countrywide Roofing Solutions as a stepping stone to create a real estate empire. He hopes to employ thousands of people who share his vision for a community that allow others who want more out of life to join and use the tools, techniques, resources, and a wide array of members to level up in whatever area they're feeling deficit in. As a passionate masterminder, Peters' proudest accomplishment has been turning his life around and going from bottom 5% of his class to 1% graduate at Texas A&M University, where he graduated summa cum laude. Justin's favorite part about being an entrepreneur is helping others. He's a big believer in inspiring others to reach their full potential. He loves to personally connect with others, so please reach out to him because he is just so wonderful, as you'll see. And without further ado, here is Justin. Hi, Justin.
Hello, Natalia.
How are you?
I'm doing amazing. How are you doing? I'm honored to be here today with you.
Oh my God. I am overly joyed and thrilled to be interviewing you today. I think that you have such an incredible ability and outlook in life. And that's why I decided to have you on, because I think that the things and the visions that you have and where your heart comes from in putting that vision together is truly inspiring, and what others need to see so they can also do the same.
Well, thank you very much. I'm a huge fan of you. You know what you're doing, your vision, this podcast especially, and so being able to be a guest here with you guys and to share, my story with the viewers and the listeners, I'm definitely honored, to say the least.
Yeah. So, Justin, I like to say that is like a master acknowledger. Side situation before we get into the interview. Can you tell us how you have been able to master this acknowledgement that you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. Growing up, my mother and my dad, I would always, one of the things they always taught to me, and I have one tattoo on my body, and that tattoo, it's a quote, it's a Bible verse called Matthew 7:12. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you, right? And so growing up, some people know it as like the golden rule. It was poured into me as a child from both my dad and my mom. And so a huge part of my life and how I interact with others is to always make sure I have a lot of empathy towards them, put myself in their shoes, and make sure I'm always, genuinely expressing my feelings toward them of importance and why, I appreciate what they're doing. I think a lot of people nowadays, we get so caught up in the demands of life and what we're doing, we don't take the time to really acknowledge and appreciate even just the small things that people do on a day-to-day basis for us. And so it's something that I've instilled a habit, and I definitely give all the credit to my parents for instilling that in me, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that it's extremely important to be able to actually identify and acknowledge someone for all of the reasons.
Yeah, 100%. One of my favorite quotes by Mary Kay. She says, treat every person you come into contact with as if they have the sign around their neck that says, make me genuinely feel important. And so that's something I keep in mind. Always going out, everyone in the world, this is one thing that stays consistent. Everyone wants to be appreciated. Everyone wants to feel significant and important. And so if you can do that in a genuine manner, it makes life, relationships, everything else flow a lot smoother and become a lot easier for you on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, part of the really, important reason why I'm having you here is just because of, we talked about you having a spiritual journey and a spiritual awakening, and being a man. I know that sometimes men more shy towards away this type of work. And so I honor you so much for going full deep into, the things that you have gone through and experience, and how you're bringing that into your work and how that you're bringing that into your employees and everything. So I just wanted to know a little bit more of what was your spiritual awakening like?
The light for me came at one of the darkest times of my entire life, to be honest with you. Yeah, absolutely. It's a backstory. And once you go through it, you understand that all the pain, darkness, and suffering you went through was all there and played its part to make sure you could evolve to your higher self. At the beginning of 2020, I was in one of the darkest places of my entire life. There was nothing I could consume, nothing I could do to have that same amount of dopamine, endorphins, and happiness and excitement about life, about business, so on and so forth, until I changed something dramatically. And I was always looking for external things to change in my life, right? And what I didn't realize, the answer was lying within me. It was an internal process and the roots of myself, the conditioning I had that I had to really focus on. And once that did happen to me, again, it was in March of 2020, right around when all the craziness of the world was happening with COVID too. It kind of coincided with that. That led me on a spiritual journey, and I'm still working on it. Every day I'm learning something new about myself, how I can improve, meditation, journaling. There's so many different things to allow us to connect with our inner self. The long story short, Natalia, is I had my priorities, my balance of life so backwards, and a much higher spirit was trying to give me a wake up call, and they definitely did. And that was the first time I listened to the wake up call and realized, okay, I have to make a dramatic change, and this change I'm going to make is ultimately going to allow me to live out and get close to my higher self for the rest of my life, for my business. Because if I would have kept on that same path I was on, my business may not be here. The opportunities, the people that I want to impact and allow to have a platform to grow to their highest self probably wouldn't even exist if I hadn't gone through what I went through. Yeah,
I think that happened for a lot of people at the beginning of COVID. And I also think that the most important thing about what you just said was the choice that you decided to make in that moment, because easily you could have discovered it and just said, you know what, this is my truth, but I'm just going to shy away from it. I'm not really going to deal with what's going on underneath. I'm just going to kind of put it to the side. So now that you've kind of been going through this transformation for yourself, what are you catching that is actually what is making you a truly happy person?
Yeah, one thing for me, especially, is not taking life as serious as I was. I was so caught up in my head. I was constantly living in my mind 24/7. It seemed like I was thinking about, well, what if this happens? What can we do? What about this scenario, and next year? What did I do last week that I could have done better? I was always living in the future or the past, and I was never living in the present moment. And so going through that, it allowed me to really detach and disconnect from my mind and look at those thoughts and look at everything going on in my mind, and realized I wasn't those thoughts, right? I was something much bigger, much better, and that being able to live in the present moment is what I learned mostly, Natalia. That was a huge eye opener for me. And so going through that, one thing that I've learned more than anything else is that, one, life is never as serious as we make it out to be.
Yeah.
And two, it's really, really important to practice meditation, detaching from your mind, journaling, and learning how to live in the present moment, because that really, at the end of the day, as cliche as it sounds, it's all that we have. This moment right now is the key to all of it. If we can learn how to disconnect from all the craziness going on in the world and just be present.
And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs suffer from not being able to fully disconnect from their work, right? So how have you been able to create those boundaries with really just being like, you know what, I'm done and I'm going to shut this off, and now I'm going to spend some quality time with someone?
Kind of going back to my story, I was just focused on my business. That was literally the only pillar that I was focused on all day, every day. And so for me, it's really, one, understanding what your pillars are in life, and two, making sure that you have the discipline, whether you have to time block it, whether you have to have an accountability partner, whatever the heck it may be, making sure that those other pillars are getting the attention they need and they deserve. Because even though you may be able to go a few days or a few weeks or even a few months by neglecting those other pillars, over time, when you have that imbalance, it's just a matter of time until things start going off the wall, where things start folding. The happiness that you're going after, it's just not sustainable whenever your pillars of life are not there and not in balance. And so that was a huge step for me, was understanding, one, identifying my pillars, and two, having the discipline to make sure that I'm attending to those pillars and disconnecting from work and saying, hey, look, man, it's 6 p.m. Even if I've got 10 other things I feel like I need to do today, it's not the end of the world. I'm going to push those to tomorrow, and I'm going to focus on working out. I'm going to focus on journaling. I'm going to make sure I disconnect for the rest of the evening so I don't get back in that same cycle of feeling like it's just business, 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 business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And why do you think that humans do that? Because it's such a common thing that we just get so obsessed and hyper focused. I mean, it happened to me for sure, that I just get like so hyper focused on, like, you know, achieving and doing this and doing that. And it's like, why do we do that? Like, why do we have to wait until something just blows up in our face in order to like wake up?
It's a great question. I honestly think that a lot of it has to do with, you know, whenever we're in those modes, we're always focused on our future accomplishments, or whenever I achieve this, you know, then I'll be able to be happy. Whenever I get this relationship, then I can be fulfilled, so on and so forth. And what we have to realize is that fulfillment and happiness can come from this moment with what we have, and it's all just a change of the dialogue that we're playing on in our head. And so that was also a big lesson for me, is realizing, like, that's just not a way to live, because every time you reach that milestone, it's never going to feel as good as you think it's going to. Totally. And so being able to be happy throughout the journey and not just the destination was a big part of my growing as well, and enjoying that journey, and not just always having the future and the destination in mind. You know, really being present and having fun and being fully in the moment throughout the journey to get to that destination, if that makes sense.
And how do you feel like that's impacted your business? And how do you feel like that's impacted the way that you interact with your employees and with everything that you do?
You know, like I said, in the beginning of 2016 is whenever I started my business. As any entrepreneur, whenever you have a big goal like that, whenever you're taking a leap of faith, I mean, you're truly in a fight or flight mode. Dopamine is at its highest. You're just in the zone, I like to call it, right? But what a lot of new entrepreneurs don't realize is that zone and that dopamine and everything else, it's not going to last forever.
So when you start this new venture, you're like, this is it, like, this is my life, and like, I'm gonna feel like on top of the world, like, go, 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 go.
Yeah, and you think it's never gonna stop. You know, you truly think that this is the way it's gonna feel. You found your passion and everything's there, and no matter how much of your passion it is, like, true success isn't going to be there, because you're going to have an imbalance in other areas, and it's just a matter of time before it all starts to crumble on you. And so after about a year, you know, as crazy as it is, first year it was nonstop, seminars, podcasts, just diving in and building the foundation of my business, right? And that feeling of the dopamine and just riding this high was still there. Literally all my days consisted of is work, workout, work, sleep, wake up, work. I mean, this went on not Monday through Friday, Monday through Sunday, every single day.
Because I think that so much of the entrepreneur world kind of glorifies that living a little bit.
100%. They definitely do. They make you think that hustle is like the only answer, and it's not. It's not the answer. And usually the ones that have true success, which true success to me is fulfillment in, you know, your career path, but also fulfillment and the other pillars of life too. I think that is the definition of true success. I think the way to true success is to have balance and to, let the compound effect take its toll, work on your craft every day for a certain amount of time. Don't overdo it. And in due time, you're definitely going to beat the guy that's trying to work 3 or 4 times as much as you, but who's neglecting the other pillars. They're going to crash before too long, and they're not going to be able to keep it going.
Their health is going to go out the door. Their relationships are going to suffer. Or I know many entrepreneurs that are just completely single, and they don't even try to have anything in their life remote to that. Yeah. And because I was in that as well, when I was just so much about the networking, and you're just in meetings, and you're not for COVID, for me, was just so crazy because I got to finally see what it meant to not have 12 meetings a week and not drive all over Los Angeles from meeting to event to event. So much. It's exhausting.
Yeah, it is. It is exhausting. And if you don't take control of it and recognize it, it can do a lot of damage to a lot of people, and they don't realize that until it's too late most of the time.
Exactly. And that's what's not talked about. And that's what is really important to highlight. This balanced, holistic way of viewing entrepreneurship.
Going back to my story, I right around the time I got hurt and I got prescribed 2 pain pills. This is the first time I've talked about this on a platform like this, but it's my story. It's who I am, and I'm totally okay with it. It's made me who I am, and I wouldn't change anything that I went through at all. And so for those of you that, don't know exactly what the pain pills would do, well, what they did is they allowed me to ride on that high in an unrealistic fantasy world by just consuming a pill or 2 upon demand, right? And I started realizing that very quickly. And so whenever I would get balance and go back to where I needed to correct and be at a neutral state, that neutral state felt off to me during those times. I felt like I needed to be operating and working 18 hours. And hey, if I'm going to work out, how can I have the energy whenever I go back home, continue working on the business? And I got in this mindset to where, well, hey, these things that I've been prescribed to, they're helping me with that. They're literally making me
What were you prescribed? Can you say?
It was pain pills. It was hydrocodone. It was opioids is what it was. They give you a ton of energy. They give you a ton of focus. It's an entrepreneur's worst nightmare who's trying to start up a business. I got hooked to it, to be entirely honest with you. And so that was about a year into my business. And next thing you know, I conditioned myself that I couldn't go on a day-to-day basis without, being able to take 1 or 2 of those to enhance my skills, enhance my sharpness. I would put so much on my plate that it was so unrealistic, and I would get it all done because I had this additional help. And I felt like no one's going to stand a chance against me. I'm riding high. This is everything I wanted. Success is coming my way. I feel happy all the time. I thought that I had figured out the answer. And what I didn't realize is I figured out the opposite of the answer. I figured out what was the darkest time of my life waiting to happen from taking that stuff. And so this went on 2017, 2018, 3 years of me doing that.
Oh my
3 years.
God.
Yeah. Which is unbelievable to think about.
That's so scary that how people prescribe that for people and they don't monitor it. And it's so.
It is. It truly is an epidemic in a lot of ways. And for me, I'm a Christian, so there is a much higher power. I believe it was God that gave me a big wake-up call. He came knocking my door where it was like, look, you literally, something is going to happen to you. You may not be around in the next year if you continue this path. And during that time, it was the first time I started really thinking about, who this was actually impacting. It was way bigger than me at the time, right? There's people who have kids and families that are depending on me. There's investors, financial partners, all the employees that we have. I started to really think and how selfish I was if I were to continue down this path. It's a very difficult thing to do. And I stopped cold turkey. Literally that day I had a voice talk to me. I got down on my knees and broke and made a promise that I was never going to go back down that road again. And that whatever it took, no matter how much pain I had to go through, I was willing to do it so I could come out stronger than I've ever been, and for this to be part of my story so I could help impact and come out the best version of myself, right? So So after that time, I had to take about 3 months off of my business. It was the most magical thing in the world. You know, I had so much anxiety. Like, if I step out of this business, like, what's going to happen? The business is going to just come to a halt. I had all these stories I made up. Well, whenever that happened, I stepped down and people in the business started stepping up. I had leaderships that came in, and our business absolutely flourished whenever I took those 3 months off to get right with myself.
It sounds like so many stories that we've heard, right? Of it's just like you hear it all the time. They're like, oh, that's interesting. Why did it happen to that person? And then you find yourself there too.
And then I'm there. Yeah, exactly. I never thought it happened to me.
Exactly, because you never do. You always hear people, and then, and then I just prayed. And you're like, they're full of shit. But I think that the important reason for us to continue sharing that story is because if people hear it enough, then they'll think that it's okay. Then they'll just be a little bit more courageous for that to happen for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And with what I went through, that it was a dark time in my life. Darkness can be from anyone. You don't have to be on any type of drug or anything like that. What I think is important is, like, you're not alone. I think a lot of people that go through these stages of life, like, you have to realize it's way more common than most people have any idea about, and that you're not alone. And that if you're willing to go through it and really work on yourself and understand there's millions of people who have gone through the same thing you've gone through and come out better than they could have ever imagined, and on a trajectory of constantly just evolving and coming close to their higher self, if they're doing it, you can too. And that was really important as I started diving into this stuff, like realizing I'm not alone. A lot of people have gone through this, and if they're doing it, it gives me hope that I can do it as well.
Absolutely. And so you said that, that you heard a voice. Like, is that what it was for you, that you kind of broke maybe emotionally? What did that look like for you? Because I think it's important to share.
When I say heard a voice, like if you keep going down this path, like, you may not be here at this time next year.
Thank you, by the way, so much for sharing your story. I know that's very vulnerable. So, and I hope that if anyone else is right now going through some type of similarity, because I know that sometimes you just want to escape the pain so badly. You feel it and you don't want to go through it. But when you went through those 3 months, what did that look like for you? Was there a lot of crying? Was there a lot of, like, depression?
I mean, my emotion, it was a roller coaster. Like, I would cry out of nowhere. I would depressed, like hopeless. It was miserable. It was the darkest time of my entire life, to be honest with you, the first 2 to 3 weeks. And then one morning I woke up and I could smell the air. I could see the sunshine. I could, like, things had changed. It was like, Justin, you went through this. You proved that you go through the suffering to get past the hardest point. Now I know you're serious. Now let's get you back on track. And once I was actually coming back to, humanity, it seemed like, and actually getting on the right track and actually being able to function, that's whenever I started diving in and doing things like meditation, journaling, going on walks, grounding myself, little things that I never even thought to do. I was like a robot up to that point.
Going to healers.
Yeah, going to healers, ended up getting a mindset coach and tapping in and, like, realizing, like, man, there's so much more to me and so many more solutions. Had I had known about that in the past, look, I'm glad I went through what I went through. It's made me who I am. But if I had known about that in the past, like, maybe none of this would have happened. Like, there's better answers than having to take a pill to make you feel better. Like, it's all within us. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so after that, 3 weeks of going through what I went through, the withdrawals, that's when the progression and the healing really started coming in with my mindset coach and just working on myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems like what the major point for you was that you got help, that you didn't try to do it alone, right? Because I think that people also want to figure things out on themselves, on their own, and they're so resistant to seeking that outside help. But it's like, for me, I know it was an essential part of, like, having my hand being held.
Absolutely. And then, going back to what we talked about earlier, it makes you realize you're not alone. These people have gone through very similar things, and that there are success stories all over the place. And if one man or woman can do it, you have to understand this, so can you. And I think that was so important for me to realize.
It takes a lot of time and dedication and discipline to really put yourself in a position where you are implementing things, because it's not just going to a spiritual healer or a mindset coach just once. It's dedication.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, telling someone to take time to meditate and ground and journal. It sounds so easy on the surface, but if you're not willing to do that, you know, a lot of people will start for 2 or 3 days and do it and be like, I don't feel anything. They'll stop. It takes time. Like you have to literally, it's like a muscle. You have to work this muscle out, and in due time, you have to have the faith that as long as you're putting in the steps, these are proven steps that have been tried and true over and over and over again. In due time, you're going to start seeing those effects come in. And I think that's really important. You have to stay patient. And you have to engage in consistent action.
I would say whoever wants to try it for consistently for 3 months. And start seeing at the end of 3 months, look back at the first day of your journal and see what the progression has been. And then that's when you can make your judgment call.
I agree. Don't look for any changes until there's 3 months. Give it 3 months and then go back and look at it and see the transformation. 100%.
Exactly. What was your vision of success pre this moment versus what it is now?
So it was recognition, making money. You know, it was all the wrong things, to be honest with you. Like it was all about me. It was all about I. And then once I went through this, it really changed my mindset to understand, like, it's not about me, and it never has been about me. And so my mentality shifted tremendously from an I perspective to a we perspective. Whenever I was coming in before, like, it was just business. That's all it was, is business and go. And where are we at on this? What are we doing on this? Now I know I can take the time to see how these individuals, these people that have trusted me in building this company, how they're doing on a personal level. How can I help them on a personal level? What can I do to make their lives better professionally and personally? I'm forever thankful that I had to go through that transformation to see that, because now it's more clear than ever. And I'll never go back to it being an I-centric focus, because it's just that simple.
But I want you to tell us more of just like this amazing real estate empire vision that you have, and just why do you think it's so important for you to create what you're trying to create? So
real estate has always been super attractive to me, because for most people, real estate is the largest transaction that we're ever going to go through, right?
Totally.
It's a very, very emotional sell. And I knew from a long time, I got my real estate license in college. I knew that it was going to be a very prideful career path to take. I didn't know exactly what it was going to look like. I didn't know if I was going to be a real estate agent. I didn't have any visions really of having a company too young, until I started getting into the field of work and realizing I just wasn't a good employee, that I needed to kind of be my own boss. I think a lot of entrepreneurs can relate to that.
Yes, absolutely. Just like, what? Like whenever I used to work for anyone, I was just like, I'm the boss.
Yeah, you're like, you're saying that, but I think we're going to do this instead.
I'm going to tell you what we're going to do today.
Yeah. I know you're managing me, but the tables have turned now, okay?
I run your business.
Yeah. And so my goal, in short, Natalia, is like, I want to create a platform for individuals to be able to come on and reach their highest potential, take a lot of pride in what they're doing. We want to be an a la carte for homeowners, to where if you're wanting to sell a house, whether it be for cash, whether you want the best realtors, whether you want to do creative real estate, which is owner financing, whether you want to do rent to own, there's a lot of different ways to go about buying a house and getting home ownership. We want to have the best team, the best people, to be able to allow these homeowners to have the absolute most professionalism and the most frictionless way to sell a home, regardless of what choice they're wanting to make, right? And with that as well, the reason this was such an attractive venture to me is because it's kind of unlimited as to how many people we can get on that are hungry, that want to make a difference, that want to also be a part of such a special milestone in people's lives in selling a home. And so it allows us to grow at really an infinite level, to bring those like-minded people on and to be able to create the best career path for them, and giving homeowners the best solution to their goals and needs.
Amazing. And then on like the flip side, I know that you also just want to be like a catalyst for people to transform as well. So like, how are you mixing that into the mix?
Yeah. And so, as the owner of the company, my focus now, I used to have a very micro perspective. Now it's very macro. It's a very bird's eye view. I want to be able to create a platform to where when you come here, one, you're going to have the opportunities, the tools and techniques to become the best real estate professional available. But two, I want to also develop these guys and girls to become the best person they can inside these walls and outside these walls, right?
Exactly.
And so
It's
Yeah.
almost, it's almost going back to the, how we used to live, like village mentality, right? It's like,
Yeah.
let's create these communities, but also because it's symbiotic. Like we're all human
It
beings
is.
at the end of the day. It's not like we're workers and then we're like at home. It's a symbiotic thing. So it's so important for leaders to understand that their employees are humans. They have
Yeah.
lives. Everyone has needs,
Yeah.
and why not combine this transformational work with the
Hmm.
actual employee work, right? Because I know for me, I've had to search for it outside. Like I don't know how many companies are out there just being like, you need to take this program, or et cetera, having like in-house people that are actually there to help heal the people that they work
Hmm.
with.
Yeah, when I went through that mindset coach, the first thing I offered to my entire team was them to have that ability to get with her as well. On behalf of the company, we were going to pay for it. I want to provide as
That's
many
huge.
opportunities. Yeah, I want people to win, not just in business. I want them to win at life. That's a huge part of it. And the bigger I can make my platform, the more people I can get on this. Well, it's not just that I'm able to impact them, like, because once they're impacted, it spreads. Then they can impact people in their family or their friends, and next thing you know, we're making a better world with one impact at a time. And that's a huge vision of mine.
Yeah, no, I love that. And
Thank you.
why do you think that it's so important for people to see their fullest potential? Like, why do you think that people don't see it right now?
If you don't see it right now, it's because I think you're stuck in your own head, to be honest with you. I
Yeah.
think you've conditioned yourself to a certain way, and you need to understand, like, the probability of you being born was 1 in 400 trillion. Like, the fact that if you could hear this, if you can see this, you're a walking miracle. Like, I think
Mm-hmm.
people need to understand, if you're a human being today, you have been chosen, and you are holy, you're mighty, like you're a true gift to the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times with social media and comparing ourselves to others, instead of like realizing just how good we have it, and doubling down on our gifts, man, we've got all the gifts and happiness that we need inside, right? And
Absolutely.
so I think the biggest part is that you need to quit judging yourself and comparing yourself to others. You need to realize you're a living miracle that's walking on earth right now, and that you have so much more in you than you could ever imagine. And it's going to take work to bring it to surface, but
Mm-hmm.
it's there. And if you're willing to put in that work, it's only a matter of time before you're going to see it, and the rest of the world is going to be able to see it as well.
Yeah, because if we don't see it ourselves first, how could anyone else
It,
outside of us see it?
Amen. Amen. You have to have that belief first. I think that's the first step to all of it, is having the belief and knowing, again, if one man or woman can do it, so can you. I think it's a
Mm-hmm.
huge aspect of success in any endeavor you're going after.
And
Yeah.
so after you kind of went through this transformational journey, how has your life improved? Like, how do you feel that, what has deepened for you? What has become more important in life for you?
Man, relationships, living in the moment, playing with my dogs, walking around the neighborhood, like driving, being so damn grateful for everything. Like the little stuff. I mean, the fact that we're able to jump in these metal boxes and go 60, 80 miles per hour down a highway, like we're living in the coolest time in the world. Like we really are. And we get so focused on past or future that we forget how amazing the present moment and every moment can be, and focus a lot more on relationships and other people, and really truly being there, not just being there, not being there, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. It happens to me. I do it in the shower.
Yeah.
It's actually the funniest things for so many people. The shower is like when they can be present. The shower for
Yeah.
me is a place where my mind just like it starts.
100%.
I have a full on board meeting in the shower, and it's like
Yeah.
I hate it. It's so annoying. So what I've had to start doing is like while I'm showering, I'm like, I have to be present. And I'm like, the water
Yeah.
is hot on my skin. And I'm like,
Yes.
I'm rubbing like this one.
Yes.
Like because or else like I go in and out of the shower and I don't even know what I did.
Yeah, you don't even remember it. Or like when you're driving, how many times have you been driving down the road and you get to your destination, you're like, I don't even remember getting here, because you're so caught up in your head. And so when you're driving, it's the same thing. Feel the steering wheel, feel the dash, look around your car. Like you can train yourself to be present. I mean, it's possible to do it. And the more you train yourself, eventually it'll go into your subconscious to where you're able to live in a present moment at all times. And I'm still figuring it out. I'm much better than I was. It's an ongoing journey for me, but like, the more present you can be, I think the happier you can truly be.
You actually needing to talk to yourself and because you're rewiring your system, your neurons, like the way that you've been thinking this entire time needs to be reconditioned. But it takes time and it takes work. But again, it's like what's on the other side is so worth it.
Beautiful. It's so worth it. Keep going. It's just a matter of time before you're going to be able to see that light and live in a totally different world whenever it gets there.
Reality. It's like you start living with like rose-colored glasses almost, and
yeah,
you know, you're like, wait, I never realized this was so beautiful. Like I've had moments where I just go to the beach and I'm like, oh my god, it's so pretty. The ocean is so beautiful.
Yes. It's so true. But if you're in the past or the future, you could go to the most beautiful thing in the world and not recognize any of it. It's just the truth.
Yeah, and I still have days where I like lose it, you know, and I still have days where I still get down and stuff like that. So it's never, like we said, like it's never just like you're on this other side and then everything is, you know,
great.
Great for the rest of your life. You know, you still have your things, but you're able to either deal with them better or get on the other side better or just like cry and not judge yourself. I'm a huge crier and judger at the same time.
Yeah.
Like I'm crying and then I'm judging myself for crying like simultaneously.
And it allows you, you know, the pain can still be there. And it's not like you said, you're not just going to snap out of to where problems don't exist anymore. But as they come up, you're able to handle and deal with them much quicker and much more effective than you probably did in the past.
Exactly. There's just like this, the anxiety just kind of just like subdues and you're not in this like flight or fight existence that society has created. I think in society, you know, I'm guilty. I've been watching Outlander. Wow, such a good show. Guilty because it took me this long. I can't believe it took me this long to watch a show. But seeing a show that's set in the 1700s, it made me realize that people really used to live in villages. And everyone used to help each other. Everyone, even though there were hierarchies, because that's the way that things need to be run, was always this need of like raising a child. It happened with all the women, like, you know, and now everything had to be done alone. And like, we feel like we're just completely isolated. So it's like, why we need to bring back that community aspect where people feel like, you know, it's not just through text message, that it's like, you know, start creating more communes, start creating more communities where people are just going out and understanding that, you know, oh, if I need to do this, like someone's got my back.
Yeah. And I can be myself, you know what I mean? I don't have to fake it and act like I'm somebody else because, you know, society wants me to be that way. Like, come as you are and understand like you're a beautiful creature just as you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do also want to say that I commend Justin for always being so open to astrology and the healing world and everything like that, because it's something that, I mean, you're a believer in God, but I know it's a little bit different than the church. But it's so good that you have such an open mind about it.
I think it's important for all of us to just be open to all sorts of different things. You know what I mean? There's a whole world out there, and if you're just willing to open yourself up to it, like you may surprise yourself by the healing and everything else that can come with it.
Exactly. And like I say, all of these things and all this work, it creates luck in our life. Because I assume that people also think that you're just one lucky guy, you know, that you just have it all and get it all. And people think that of me too. They're like, Natalia, she's just lucky. And I'm like, no, I worked my ass off for this, actually.
Yeah.
But the important thing about these things happening is that life is not perfect, that patience, that understanding, that, you know, that's what life is about. I'm trying really hard to get over this perfectionism aspect of things. Even with my employees, like I feel like I'm so much more calm when there's a mistake that's being done. And I'm like, it's okay. Like, just make sure that it doesn't happen next time as much as possible. But like, listen, if there's a if there's a mistake, like it's just a mistake. Like if I
Yeah.
can't launch an episode, like I will just wait till next week. Like no one's expecting me, like being like, what is she doing? Like, why didn't she do this? You know what I mean? It's like we set such ridiculous standards for ourselves. And at the end of the day, like if you need to take a day, like take a day.
My mindset coach that I had, she said, once you realize that everything happens at the perfect divine timing, you take a lot of stress and anxiety and pressure away from yourself. And so like, if something stops you from doing something you felt like you had to get done that day, just understand that it was meant to happen that way. And that the pressure you put on yourself, the anxiety we create is just that. We're creating it when it doesn't have to be there. And everything is going to happen. It's going to work out in your favor. And the more and more you can convince yourself of that and live through that, the more you realize, all that additional anxiety and stress and pressure that we put on ourselves is just really cultivated by our minds, and doesn't have to be there and have to be that way.
Yeah, literally we create it. And that's the whole aspect of we create our reality, right? It's like then we create that, and then our outside is chaos, and then our inside is chaos, and then it's like no, like this new holistic approach to working is so important, to really sit with yourself and give yourself some boundaries, to just be like, how much do I actually need to work to be the most effective? Because sometimes we think we need to work like 8 hours or 10 hours a day, but we're not robots. We're not computers. Like we can't, even the computers fail.
Yeah. We just live through that.
We have to make sure that our system, our energetic field, what food we consume, just like to shut off the mind, and having that control is possible.
Yeah. And kind of going back to that, a good tool and technique to use whenever you first wake up in the morning, try for the first hour of the day to not look at your phone. Like literally make that a goal to where you're going to do everything you possibly can, going outside, just disconnecting, laying there, whatever it is. Don't look at your phone. Get balanced, get ready, imagine yourself having a good day, visualize yourself going through the day in a seamless manner and dealing with anything that comes your way. And don't get on there and look at social media or Instagram or Facebook and dive in to see, the red notifications pop up. Don't do that the first hour of the day, and try not to do it the last hour of the day. And test it out for a week and see how much of a difference that can make in your life. I tried that, and it's been an amazing transformation for me.
What would you say then would be just your, for every entrepreneur that's listening to this, or someone that's creative and artistic and really wanting to build something for themselves, what would be something that you would give them that they could walk away with today?
Kind of going back to what we talked about earlier, is focus on balance. Understand that like, anything worth having is going to be an uphill battle. Anything worth having, anything that's going to be extraordinary, it's going to take time. Like you can't force it to happen quick. My biggest takeaway for entrepreneurs is, go after what you're going after, but do it in moderation, do it in balance. Make sure you're not sacrificing other important parts of your life to achieve what you're going after. You know what I mean? There has to be a little bit of imbalance when you're trying to create something in life, but I firmly believe like it shouldn't be that much imbalance. It shouldn't be as much imbalance as some people say, like, hey, hustle all day, every day. Make sure you're outworking your competition. Make sure, if you've got to work 18, 20 hours a day, every day for 3 years, you need to be doing whatever it takes. Like all that's just BS. Like just let the compound effect take its toll. Get 1% better every day. You do that every day for a year, you're 365% better. You're not even going to recognize yourself once years come and gone.
The thing about life is that you can make something your own, so it doesn't matter. It's just really sit with yourself and ask yourself, if you had the perfect work schedule, like what would that look like? Like including playtime, including eating, including like what? Like I think the other day in the middle of my work day, I went horseback riding and I was like, oh, this is fun.
You bet.
Yes. Like I got to connect with nature and a horse, and we get to create whatever it is that we want.
And if you're miserable right now, you don't enjoy what you're doing, understand you don't have to be that way. You can overcome it. You can change it. You can change the direction of your life with one decision. And I think that's so important for people to realize, like, you're not stuck. You're the author of this book. Make it a bestseller. And if you've had bad chapters up to this point, well, now flip the script. Make the rest of your book, like turn the entire direction of that book to where it's the coolest book ever been written. And that's your life. Like you have the ability to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love always telling people that they have the power to change, because they do. And this whole thing on personal development, I think that, we also get caught up in wanting to be better and grow and be better and better and better. Like if we weren't already good. And what I want to say about that is that it's important to know that the personal development work is for you to kind of just get the shit out of the way, to get to the core of who we really are. It's not that there's something outside of us or someone outside of us that we need to be that's better. It's actually just what personal development means is getting connected to our truth, which is love.
Amen. Yes, for sure. 100%. I love that. That's the best definition of personal development I think I've ever heard in my life.
Me too.
Write that down. And
I'm gonna put it in my book.
Make sure you put that in your book. I love that.
I will put that in my book. Yes, next on the list. Anyway, Justin, I just wanted to say thank you so much for all of your time and dedication and wisdom that you shared today. And I always like to end it with a little dance party. You gotta dance. You gotta dance.
Do I have to? Okay.
You do. Let's see those moves.
I don't have many moves, but I'm just going to pretend like I do.
Oh my God. And please let us know where we can find you, where we can find your business, and let us know how we can be more involved with you.
Yeah. So the platform I'm most active on is Instagram. Our business is also very active on Instagram at JZ Homebuyers and on Facebook as well. And then if there's anything I can do to help add value to your life or contribute to you, just shoot me a direct message and I'll get back with you as soon as I possibly can. And yeah, would love to see how we can collaborate and continue making this world a better place.
Yes, absolutely. And right, that if anyone wants to buy a home, do they come to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Come to me, no matter what state you're in. We buy in all 50 states. And so if there's any way we can add value, and if we can't, we'll point you in the right direction and make sure that we give you the service that you're looking for. So if you've got any real estate needs whatsoever, reach out to us and we'll do whatever we have to do on our end to make sure you're getting the answer you're looking for.
Amazing. Amazing. This man is a master communicator. I also told him about that text message. That's the prime example of communication of text. Actually, I just want to bring that back and talk about that. And I'll put the text, and I'm just going to in this thing. Yeah, because so I want to ask you about your methodology, because I think that, sometimes people don't know how to communicate well. But you in that moment, you did in a really great way. And you always do, but I'm just taking that one as a specific example. What is your methodology behind just communicating in that way with such clarity? We just took responsibility. You didn't apologize. There was just there's so much juiciness there. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier, having, one, being real. You need to be genuine. Don't try to BS people, because people can read through it. You know what I mean? Like, know your worth too. That's huge. Like if you're a busy person and you can't just expect to get back to everyone at the time and give everyone just attention right then and there, right? You need to make sure other people know that, hey, you care about them, you understand, you're being attentive to whatever they reached out to you on, but at the same time, you have things that you're doing and you're going to get back with them in the quickest manner that you possibly can. And that's really what that text message came down to. And I try to communicate with everyone that way. As you continue to embark on things, you're going to have people wanting to go out to lunch with you and do all these things, or meet up and pick your brain, so on and so forth. And so you have to be able to communicate in an effective way to where, hey, I appreciate, you reaching out to me, whatever it may be. But at the same time, I need to make sure that you understand I've got a lot of demands on my plate. And as much as I want to get in touch with you right now, it may not work in the best manner for both of us, but in the future, let's definitely retouch base on this and make that happen. And so I think the big part of it, Natalia, is just having empathy, being very straight up, being genuine, respecting yourself and your time as well, with what you have going on in life.
Yeah. And being unapologetic. Don't give excuses.
Exactly.
It's not attractive in any area of life to communicate to someone the reason why you didn't get back to them with a bunch of excuses. Just don't give them. It's just own that you're busy or not available or that you forgot. It's okay. It's okay, not a big deal.
And that's where the self-worth comes in at. Know your self-worth and know you've got that. You don't have to make excuses out to people on why you're getting back with them. They don't care. Just tell them the truth. They'll respect that a heck of a lot more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just be honest and truthful and communicative, because that's how the world, goes round if we just all talk and be vulnerable and all of
Sure.
those things.
You
Yeah.
can be real. Be yourself. That's the most attractive thing in the world, when you're just real in yourself. Like, we need a lot more of that in this world, in
Yes.
this fake social media world that a lot of us live in and
Yeah.
compare ourselves to. It's just
Exactly.
be you and love you, and the rest of it will take care of itself.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Justin.
Thank you so much, Natalia. Keep up the amazing work.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. If you found this podcast enlightening, please like, subscribe, share, and follow Power of Your Intuition _podcast on Instagram. This is available on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube, and you can join my newsletter at nataliachoa.com.